Chicago, Dan Martin and Bernie, two 20-something friends and colleagues, discuss their life in bed. Later on, Bernie and Dan's recreational softball team, sponsored by the local bar Mothers, play against a local advertising agency and wins. Attending the game with her girlfriend is Debbie, who works at the advertising company and is having an affair with her boss, Steve. Debbie catches Dan's eyes and they flirt at the game. She and her friends, John and Pat, decide to attend the game's after party at Mother's, where Debbie again runs into Dan, with whom Pat flirts and John takes an immediate dislike to. They wind up back at Dan's apartment and sleep together, after which Debbie hesitantly leaves. The next day, Dan calls Debbie at work about last night and asks her out on a second date, to which she accepts. Afterwards, they again wind up spending the night together and spend the following day exploring the city, where Dan reveals to Debbie that his dream is to quit his job at a restaurant supply company and open his own restaurant. They begin dating more seriously and move in together, much to the dismay of John and Bernie, who dislike each other as well, as neither has ever seen or been in a serious relationship before. They attempt to navigate cohabitation without much support from their friends. They experience much throughout the relationship. Dan being contacted by former lover who is married with children, Debbie's boss Steve having difficulty accepting the end of their affair, John softening when she begins dating her new boyfriend Gary, a pregnancy scar, and Dan having difficulties with his boss who wants him to stop providing supplies to an oldish diner owned by the client turned friend Gus. Despite having been told each other the love they have for one another, Debbie and Dan's relationship becomes strained. It reaches a boiling point at a New Year's Eve party at Mother's, where Debbie witnesses a drunken Pat making advances towards Dan, and John discovers her boyfriend is married and returning to his wife. John tearfully asks Debbie to take her home, to which she agrees. Despite Dan's drunken objections, upon Debbie's return home, Dan says he's not happy and ends their relationship. Debbie immediately moves out of their apartment and back in with John. Despite getting back on the dating scene quickly, Dan begins to regret his decision regarding Debbie. After a few months, he calls her and acts nonchalant. Debbie tells him to get lost and hangs up on him. He starts to lurk around Debbie's social outings, walking to her, telling her he made a mistake and misses her at the St. Patrick's Day celebration at Mother's. Debbie turns him down, saying, "You asked me to leave and I left," and that getting over him was the hardest thing she has ever had to do, hoping to move on with life. Dan partners with Gus to revitalize the Swallow into an old school diner, achieving his dream. That summer, at another softball game, Dan and Bernie see Debbie riding her bike through the park with John, who convinces her to go and talk to Dan. She approaches him and they both express regret at how their relationship turned out. As Debbie begins to turn away, Dan asks her out again and suggests they go to a great new place, but she suggests with a smile that they just go to some old joint, signifying that she's aware of his new restaurant. As she rides away on her bike, Bernie convinces Dan to run after her, and the camera pans out to see Dan and Debbie passing through the park, hinting at their renewed relationship. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know in the comment section below which movie you want us to recap next. As always, until the next time.